Leadership is a journey, and leaders need to keep themselves fresh. What do you do to ensure you continue to grow and develop as a leader?
I'm a bit of a bowerbird in terms of what I read and absorb, so I'm very consciously looking for the opportunity to read and look at different things.
I get a huge amount of satisfaction of reading successful business cases, business leaders. I'm constantly reading about other successful people to see if I can learn from them.
I need to keep learning. I'm one of those people that loves to keep learning. So at the moment, about my only avenue for that is sort of my own, reading and things like that. But it would be great to have more time to go to some active learning experiences.
I'm very privileged to have a network of interesting, challenging people who I'd regard as close friends and mentors and co-coaches, and there's always on the radar with me the opportunity to catch up with those people, and also when you've got specific issues or challenges or problems, the kind of phone a friend, it tends to be out of that network of people.
I think you need to have very good networks where you can actually tap into the brain and the judgment and the talents of people that you trust. Because you need to keep growing and you need to understand where the trends are coming, where are the future trends, what skill set you need to develop for yourself or for your team, or how you need to educate your role in order to meet the next milestone of the future strategy. So networking and having regular people to advise is important, and that can also be experts that you've developed. I've got about 4 or 5 people that are experts in their space, whether it's digital or brand or communication or fundraising, and I consult on a regular basis.
It's the stakeholders that I connect with that teach me so much every day, and I really learn and I ask questions, so the active inquiry is really important. And I reach out to others that I don't know. I use LinkedIn sometimes to reach people and I ask a question, but there is a certain respect that comes from asking peers, and most people I've come across are so helpful and grateful that they've been approached.
Everybody's terminally busy. It's consciously finding the space so that you can retreat to the neutral corner, and when you catch up with those people, you're blocking out not 20 minutes for the quick exchange of information, but an hour and a half where you can really process what's going on and making space and place for that to happen at a level of depth, not in a superficial way.
You've got to create a space around you. And what I mean a space is that when you leave the office, ideally, you need to find a way that you refresh and you are not constantly in your head with your day-to-day operational issues. There's lots of different ways to do that. For me, it's having regular walks, spending good quality time with my family, surfing when I can, and meditating.
Also, I think just getting back to time, it is letting go of the anxiety around time and allowing, because sometimes when you allow, you get more insights than if you're rushing all the time. So the big one is to just not do too much, not do too many meetings, because then you have good contemplative time. And often CEOs are rushing around all the time, and that's to me is one of the biggest hijackers of knowledge and of progression.
Number 2 for me, it's taking regular break. I think it's critically important that every 6 months you have a 10-day break. And when I say break, it's a real break. No email, no phone call. So I go overseas. No one can contact me unless it's really an emergency, and I come back refreshed and I'm ready to go again.
I keep going out to the field. I'm lucky in that way. The organisation is small enough that I'm not stuck behind a desk. And I think going out into the field, sitting down with our beneficiaries, our stakeholders, and listening to what their concerns are, listening to what is relevant to them, brings me back to what our mission is, brings me back to how we can best achieve that mission, and how we can focus and lead, or how I can lead the staff to actually achieve that mission. So it's actually staying very focused by actually working at a grassroots level on a regular basis.
probably about once a year, I try and organise a bit of a sort of study tour for myself, so nothing formal, but where I'll pick out a couple of organisations that are relevant overseas and just go and spend a few days with them to, you know, see what I can absorb that's interesting in their environment.
You need to do field trips because you need to re-inspire yourself, particularly in the non-for-profit sector. You often visit why are we doing that? What impact are we making? And the emotional stories that you're going to hear on the field are very important, because you'll need us to tell that story eventually, but you need it for yourself.
I think in terms of keeping up my own energy, I have a number of strategies in place that are important, because when you're a CEO, essentially you work 24/7 every day of the year. I don't care what anybody else tells you. That's the truth of it. So you need to have ways of, refueling the tank. I make sure that I carve out some time for exercise every day. Apparently this is kind of quite an interesting thing to my staff who are all well aware when I take off at lunchtime and go to Pilates or something, but it's very important for me in terms of kind of maintaining my energy levels.
I go through peaks and troughs. Last year I was under-resourced and I didn't do anything at all, which was to my detriment. I did perform, but I was, tired, even though you still get your tasks done. But this year, especially, and I've made a decision, so I'm doing Bikram yoga, which is incredible for flexibility and just strength of body and mind. But I also have always maintained this, which is about time. I've let go of the notion of time being, setting to an alarm clock, because I find that very jolting to your body. It's respecting your body's needs. And I do try to eat organic foods as much as possible and drink water and be really healthy and mindful.
The good thing is, as I said, I'm full of energy, and my commitment, my overarching commitment, is to be the very best I can be. So I don't have to tell myself that only in the morning. I tell myself that 24 hours a day. I've made choices in my life, and the choice I've made in my life is to be positive. I have a choice when I wake up every morning. I could be grumpy or I could be happy. I've chosen to be happy. I've chosen to be the best I can be. So that is inherent in my character, because that is what I have imbibed. But I do exercise as many times a week as I can first thing in the morning. I do yoga and I do meditate. Now, I would love to lie to myself and say I do that 7 days a week. I don't. And meditation for me does not mean I have to be sitting on a rock going Om. I could sit at my chair and take 5 and just center myself. So I do use those practices. I think they're enormously important. And again, when I talked about nurturing or a place of replenishment, I think it is very important. Exercise for me gives me that. Walking on a beach gives me that, and I make sure that I do that as often as I can. So it might be that it's slotted in somewhere in a day or in a week, but it charges me. That's the charge that my battery needs.